Today's show was brought to you by Reebok. Take your workout anywhere with the Nano X2 Adventure. Link in our description. It's a wrap for day 2, and if you thought yesterday was crazy with those wooden log bar muscle-ups, well, today it got even wilder with a lot of new elements that we saw on the competition floor. It started with a sprint, then went into a duel, and it ended with some heavy overhead presses. The day kicked off with the sprint event, the Turtle. The athletes started with axle bar lunges at 155-105, followed by some playground monkey bars, then run up the hill before pulling a 155-105 pound bag. Then back to the monkey bars and finish with the axle bar. The last time the monkey bars were used in a CrossFit event was at the 2017 Games during the obstacle course. For a handful of athletes, including both event winners, they were there and had some first-hand experience. But to be honest, it seemed like everyone was able to channel their inner child on the playground. This one was all gas and no brakes, and came down to which athlete could push harder, especially on that last set of lunges. First through 10th on the women's side were only separated by 18 seconds. Laura Horvath and Annie Thorisdottir were step for step on the lunges and monkey bars, but Laura was able to pull ahead on the sandbag pulls. Thorisdottir did manage to make some headway on Horvath during the final set of lunges, but Horvath ultimately got past the finish line first, earning her third consecutive win of the weekend with a time of 2 minutes and 49 seconds.
I basically just picked like a fast pace and I tried to keep it that the whole workout. So I didn't really push that hard. Like there wasn't a point where I was like, okay, I have to go.
When the men took the field, we knew pretty quickly that this was going to be closer to a 2:30 time for the top athletes. In Heat 3, all 5 athletes got to the last set of lunges at the 2-minute mark, but it was Sam Quant's hand-over-hand technique on the sandbag pull, the only athlete thus far to not have the rope with the heaving technique, that earned him an impressive time of 2 minutes and 34 seconds. But would it hold up with who we'd see take it on in the final heat? Pat Vellner, Justin Medeiros, and Roman Khrennikov duked it out for yet another event, but in the first set of lunges, Medeiros took a costly no-rep, which pushed him out of the lead. Vellner was the first to the top of the hill to pull the sandbag and sprinted back down the hill, finishing just 1 second behind Quant's time from the previous heat.
You can't let up at all, and that's pretty much what I did. I mean, it all came down to the second lunge for the most part, except, I mean, I was doing hand over hand. I don't think he was done that, so gained a little, a bit of a lead on that and just try to hold on.
A little non-fitness related, Noah Olsen took some time in between events to make an announcement to his fiancée Joanne on the loudspeaker to wish her a happy birthday, and the crowd joined in the celebration. Then do a little throwback to the elimination style event. If you remember last year at the Rogue Invitational, the Duel? Well, this year, it's the Duel Part 2. This year, the version started with 1 legless rope climb, followed by 10 overhead squats at 135-95, then run the 200 or 150-pound sandbag across the finish line. The event had quarters, semis, and finals, advancing the top 5 athletes across the board to the next round. But here's the catch. The top 5 athletes going into today get a bye, automatically advancing them to the second round, which is a similar format as last year. Laura Horvath looking to take a 4th consecutive event win, and she was on the right track after winning her first heat with a blistering time of 37 seconds. But the big story in this event is what happened during the second heat. For the first time in CrossFit history, Alexis Raptis and her coach Adam Rogers appealed her time mid-event, and the judging staff granted her a redo. She then took the floor by herself to redo her time, and the crowd roared as she crossed the finish line. That new time advanced her to the next round, which she in turn won.
So when I finished, it was Prevost, me, and then Dahlstrom. But on the scoreboard, Dahlstrom was put before me, so I got knocked out. And I had no idea, but Adam saw it on the live stream. You could clearly see that I finished before her. And so they had already run second heat, so the head judge was basically like, well, you have to go by yourself. And I was like, okay. So I went by myself, managed to get a good enough time to make it into the next bracket, and then managed to make it into the final one, and I was like, well, this is cool. So I ended up top 5.
As for Horvath, if you can believe it, her next round was even 1 second faster, finishing in 36 seconds, and Danielle Brandon also faster, but right behind her at 37 seconds. If you thought that was a nail-biter, the following round with Horvath and Brandon, literally, they both dove into the end zone, advancing both of them into the duel. And it was Horvath keeping the streak alive, tying her for the most consecutive Rogue event wins with the GOAT, Tia Claire Toomey.
We're taking a little break from our recap show to head inside Vendor Village. We got the sunglasses on, even some shorts, because the weather is a little bit nicer than yesterday. Just in case though, I got my pullover, but instead of wearing the Nano X2 Adventures, you can wear them for anything, but I thought I'd go with just the normal Nano X2s. Hot pink, that's my color. It's been a bright, fun day. You can find more information at the link in our description. Now, back to our recap coverage.
Some upsets when the men took the field, seeing top contenders Roman Khrennikov and Ricky Garrard out early. Looking at Lazar Jukic, who twisted his ankle on the first day, it was surprising, but in a different way. He took 8th, his best finish yet, and looking pretty good, running and jumping, all things considered. Dueling in the final was Justin Medeiros and CrossFit Invictus team athlete Jorge Fernandez. Fernandez gave Medeiros a run for his money on the overhead squats, but it was the champ that edged him out and crossed the finish line. To end Saturday night, Dell Diamond brought the house down with Texas Oak, a 1RM log press. All 20 women were up first with the weight starting at 160 pounds and went up by 10 pounds each round. It wasn't until we got to 190 pounds when this really started to look like an odd object for a lot of the women, with 11 left to attempt the 200-pound log. It knocked out half of the field except Dani Spiegel and Laura Horvath. Then the weight went up to an easy 205 for Dani Spiegel, giving us some deja vu of the sandbag at the CrossFit Games. While Horvath wasn't able to complete that lift, Dani had already got the win in the bag, but she still went for a 215 just for funsies, even after feeling less than 100% since this morning.
Well, they came up and they were like, well, do you want to keep going? And I was like, I'm so tired. Like, I had food poisoning this morning, and I was like, I really want to go home. And then he goes, but it's like the wooden log. And I was like, okay, well, if it's the wooden log. So I got convinced. It was like twist my arm, but I was ready to kind of call it. But then everybody was like, you have to do it. And I was like, I have to do it.
As for the men, they started at 260 pounds and went up by 10, but some athletes we spoke with said they weren't quite warm as they were rushed to the floor earlier than expected. But it was Chandler Smith and Roman Khrennikov who stole the show as the only athletes to hit 290 pounds and advance to 300. Smith gets it no problem, and Khrennikov misses 2 attempts, giving Smith the event win. At the end of day 2, Laura Horvath was able to bump up to first, taking a substantial lead ahead of second by 75 points. 2 and 3 goes to Gabby McGowan and Annie Thorsdottir, who also moved up since yesterday. On the men's side, for the first time, Justin Medeiros has had and relinquished the lead in competition, as Roman Khrennikov now sits in first. Petty Vellner also making moves today as he bumped into podium contention before the final day. We have one more full day of competition with 3 events left. One of them is still unknown, and by the end of the day, we will be crowning the 2022 Rogue Invitational winners. For Morning Chalk Up, I'm Lauren Kalil, and we'll see you tomorrow.